Hello, my name is Grian, and today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be making the Crystal Temple from my favourite cartoon at the moment, Steven Universe. I'm sure lots of you have seen it and you know what it looks like. It's a giant lady statue, but the problem is I'm not very good at building statues, and I've wanted to make this for a long time. Fortunately, one of the build team members, Corroded, and here he is very good at making statues, so I'm going to be working with him on this build to try and make a really cool Steven Universe Crystal Temple. Let's get right into it. So I've already started the main build. This is because the render distance is a little bit finicky in the replay mod, so you might see some of it disappear and reappear. Hopefully you're just going to have to deal with that. I can't really do anything about it. Oh, there it goes. Anyway, let's get on with it. So I'm going to be working on the back mountain, while meanwhile, Corroded is going to be doing the main statue, which is no mean feat, and I'm going to try and commentate over what both of us are doing, but that's going to be incredibly difficult. So I'll mainly focus on what I'm doing, and then point out how Corroded's doing as we go along. So you'll see I've sort of created layers and I'm edging in, just destroying a single block layer using /BB, and I'm sort of creating these cracks almost like the lines drawn on the side of the mountain, and I've given it layers to make it look like it's got a really good depth to the terrain. The day-night cycle's kind of annoying, especially with the shaders. Now I had to use shaders in this for a very specific reason. Without them, the background flickers black and white all the time and it was like an epilepsy warning, so I had to turn that off. Anyway, moving swiftly back into the video, I'm terraining the back still, constantly editing every little detail about every layer, and then I'm overlaying the stone with just a single layer of grass. It's very effective because there's so many different depth layers to it that the grass progresses really nicely. Getting the texture on a build like this right is really important, because pretty much everything is made of stone, so you need to have contrast, otherwise you won't be able to distinguish, say, the statue from what's behind it. So you see that I've added loads of sand, loads of grass, and I've added a bunch of jungle bushes just using voxel sniper to make sure that I have that good contrast throughout the build. Once I've done that, I then move to the foreground and I start adding loads of rocks like you see on the beach. Meanwhile, Corroded's doing a really good job of getting that body shape right, with the right height, the correct slenderness, and all of that, and he specifically got done some of the arms, which he's then going to copy paste to the other side because it is pretty symmetrical, although it's in different stages of being broken. But now pretty much the terrain at the back is done, so I started working on the lighthouse at the top. It's really starting to come together at this point, and you can see where the shape's coming in. The lighthouse is a very simple build. I just did a couple of columns and added some windows, and then on the top I'm going to add this sort of black lighthouse thing. Because the build is so far away, the lighthouse, I don't have to go into too much detail for it, and that's simply because of the distance that you are away from it. If it was overly detailed, it wouldn't make that much difference. Having a very simple build up there is really effective. So now we're moving on to some of the more detailed parts of the build. We've got a lot of the terrain done, I've done the lighthouse, and I just added some quartz staircases to make it look a little bit more weathered. That's quite a nice technique to do. If you find that your build looks really unnatural and smooth, you can just like edge in these little holes just to make it look a bit more weathered. Meanwhile, Corroded has been toying with the face the whole time because the facial features are something that's really hard to get across. So I'm going to leave him up there fixing the eyes and whatever else he's doing, and I'm going to work on the actual house for Steven Universe's Crystal Temple. The big problem with this house is that it isn't very good looking and it doesn't translate well into Minecraft. It's very simple shape, not much texture to it, so I'm gonna have to try and do my best with what I've got. So I'm going for the general shape with the two slanting roofs, and I did the staircase up using a rather odd technique, but it mirrors what it's like in the cartoon. So I've got a balcony and it's up where those four hands meet, and it's almost like it's holding the entrance to the Crystal Temple. I used birch wood to try and mimic the colour of the white as much as possible, but notice that I put it one block back as I normally do. Later I'm going to use that to try and mimic the wood that is used in the cartoon. So I'm going to be continuing the house as normal, I'm finding it incredibly difficult to try and find things to add to this build, because if you look at the picture, it's not really detailed, so when it gets translated into Minecraft it looks overly simple, but it doesn't matter too much that it looks that simple, because in the overriding scheme of things, it's just a small part. It's being held by the giant statue. And you'll also notice that I've added windows, and I added that detail that I said earlier using half slabs to try and mimic some texture to the wood. Meanwhile, Corroded is well into getting the facial features right, and he's just about to copy over half the hair to the other side to mimic the entire face, and there we go. Now, I do apologise that I can't do a tutorial on this because this build took us 3 hours consecutively. Doing a tutorial like that, not only is it an enormous amount of time for me, it would probably take weeks to make that tutorial. I'm not sure many people would manage to stick it through on a project like this, so it's better for me to sort of show you what it is. Meanwhile, we are starting to decorate the statue. While Corroded is texturing it with lots of overgrowth, or rather, a load of green blocks, I'm going to go around adding grass and leaves to really make it look like there's a lot growing on it, because in the show the temple is well over 1,000 years old and it's starting to crumble and grow over and all that kind of stuff, so we need to try and mimic that as best we can. And once that's done, we're completed. So here's a quick overview before I do a little outro. So that's it, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. It took a lot of time to make that, and a little bit of planning, and a big thank you to Corroded for making probably the best part about the build, the statue itself. It is the centerpiece. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more like this, like the Mystery Shack or Adventure Time Treehouse, I am more than willing to do more builds like this. Just hit me up in the comment section below. And also, if you have any fan arts or anything like that, you can also follow me on Twitter at GrianMC, and I'll start showcasing my fan arts in my videos. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye!